Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening.
Hold one, Andre.
You're not good at this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list.
Oh my God!
Sorry, no speak English.
Dummy. Goodbye and good night. Hold two, on bar.
It's still real to me, damn it!
Dummy.
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
Hold three, Lamas covered, three-handle family Gradunzel.
Mamma mia!
And now, Unchained.media presents the B Plus Podcast with your host, Greg Unchained.
It's me, Austin! It was me all along, Austin!
Number 4, armbar.
I will never retire!
I still got 200 more. I got 200 more holes to list.
All right, fellow B Plus players, welcome to the B Plus Podcast. I'm your host, Greg Unchained. Today is Friday. You know what that means. It's Aussie Grapps Day. Aussie Grapps Day is our favorite day here at the B Plus. It's the day we sit down and we take a look at everything that is happening in the world of Australian professional wrestling. Normally it's a week thing, but this time around we got a lot to get to because we've had about a month off, I think, close to it. We've had a few weeks off at least. We've had some bonus episodes in that time covering things like, who you should be paying attention to in 2019. And if you're not subscribed, please hit subscribe, scroll back through the feed on your podcatcher, and you can have a listen to 8 interviews with 9 different individuals regarding what they're going to be doing in 2019 and why you should be paying attention to them and what other stuff they do good too. It's a whole thing. But our schedule is changing throughout 2019. The B Plus is growing. We're bringing on a whole bunch of new stuff. We've launched a Patreon. Everything's going crazy. So Fridays are still Aussie Grapps days. Saturday is the View from the WWE Universe NXT edition. We're splitting that into 2 now. Myself and Mikey are taking the NXT talk. On Sundays, we still have All the Rest with Mr. Mysterious, where we look at MLW, Lucha Underground when it's on, Being the Elite, NWA, and various other graps we've watched throughout the week, as well as all the week's major news and happenings. On Monday, we go into the Impact Zone with the regular J. Wednesday is King of Sports Day with myself and Big Boy Mikey, and Thursdays now will be put aside for the View from the WWE Universe main roster edition with CJ and Danders. Of course, you can hear all those episodes completely ad-free and also get early access to various bonus episodes, such as our This Month in BritRes, Pure Resu episodes, and many more via Patreon, which really helps us out. So we have big goals in 2019. We're looking to grow this thing, get as many eyes as possible onto Aussie Grapps as we spread our mission of watch global, support local. That's why we talk about everything. We watch global, we support local. We're hoping by year's end to have representation in every state and a YouTube channel featuring interviews and all sorts of other goodies. But that's all for a later date. If you want to help us get there and help us invest in ourselves while getting some cool perks for yourself as well, like access to our Discord server where we talk about wrestling every day in a positive and uplifting way, call-in shows, custom episodes, and so much more, as well as all the early access to these interviews that I do on the Aussie Grapps show whenever I possibly can get them up earlier. I will be for Patreon subscribers. There's lots of fun to be had as we grow this thing together. So join us at patreon.com/theb+, because that gets you in on the ground floor of something special. Big thanks to our early adopters, Julian and Luke. You guys are awesome. It's been great talking live Grapps with you guys in the Discord, and our first call-in show is coming soon, so get in quick if you want to be a part of it, patreon.com/theb+. But now, it's time to get to this week's show. As we announced on Facebook as part of the Announce Shazza for Everything Day, our guest this week is Shazza McKenzie. But first, let's take a look at this week, and then some, in Aussie Grapps news. First up on the docket, Wrestle Rampage have announced that their February 2nd event Never Surrender will feature Jonah Rock's last match in Australia. No word on who his opponent is yet. We do know, however, that the show will be streaming once again via Kling, so no matter where you are in the country, for $10 on February 2nd, you can watch along live with those of us who will be in attendance to see Jonah Rock's final match. Oh man, it's crazy to think this is his final match in the country. We have no idea who it's against yet. It has not been announced as of the time I am recording this, so you may know more than me when you listen to this, but I'm hoping it's going to be against one of his young boys there from the Rampage Dojo. Tommy Knight would be a fantastic one. Rat Daddy's done a lot of work with Jonah already. I think really I'd like to see it be Nick Golfus, Tommy Knight, maybe a triple threat, one-on-one with either of those I think would be fantastic, but we could always go into the history as well. There's a lot of options here. We know Damian Slater is unfortunately not going to be there because he is at the EPW show, and he posted on Twitter about he was there for Jonah's first show and now he's got to miss the last one, and that's really sad. But there's a lot of ways this could go. So make sure you're tuning in via Kling if you aren't in Adelaide. If you are in Adelaide, come down with me. I'll be there. Jonah Rock's last show in Australia, and it's Wrestle Rampage, so they're going to put on one hell of a show. AJ Istria, of course, the new champion. We're going to see how things look moving into this new era of Wrestle Rampage. I'm very excited for that one. Sticking with match announcements and what have you, PWA and Melbourne City Wrestling have both made a ton of announcements since we went on break. So this weekend is the first shows of the year as MCW hosts Vendetta on Saturday night and PWA holds Diego's last show on Sunday, both of which feature an appearance from Jimmy Havoc, which we talked about on our last couple of shows. I'm not going to go into all the match announcements and everything because there's been a lot. I will say, though, that if you are on the fence about getting out to one of these shows, don't be. Jonah Rock is appearing on both of these shows, so we presume that this is going to be his last matches in Victoria and New South Wales, respectively, because if he's closing things up on February 2nd for whatever the next chapter is, you got to think these are his last shows in Victoria and New South Wales. So both of the shows look fantastic as well. We're definitely kicking things off in a big way for 2019 in these companies. MCW with the reunion of two of their greatest tag teams of all time, Sex Rock, Elliot Sexton, Jonah Rock, and Loose and Reckless, of course, being the Loose Ledge himself, Adam Brooks, and Dowie James, Super Dowie. It's looking like a fantastic show. PWA, they're putting on a triple threat between the PWG3. There's new talent making their way into MCW. Rat Daddy's debuting, Jet Ruka and Tyson Baxter are debuting against Robbie Eagles, of all people. Tali debuting on MCW against Indy Hartwell, which is an impressive debut match there for Tali. I should also note, Tali is popping up everywhere at the moment. She's been making her debut up in Newcastle Pro Wrestling recently. She's got Underworld coming up. She's just announced Underworld have just announced that she's coming there for the March 10th taping, so that's fantastic for Tali. PWA, they're paying. Looks like they're going to be paying off the Madison Eagles Michael Spencer story with a no rope breaks match that stems from the last one where she grabbed the rope but the ref didn't see. Gavin McGavin is blessing the PWA. Everything. These are big shows. Probably the most talked about match going into the weekend is Matty Wahlberg and Jimmy Havoc. It's the one I'm most hyped for. Realistically, with some of the matches announced, this match could have easily gotten lost in the shuffle. I mean, you're on the same card as Adam Brooks versus Jonah Rock versus Robbie Eagles, right? But Matty Wahlberg went ahead and just dropped one of the greatest promos that I have ever seen in Aussie wrestling, directed at Jimmy Havoc. I'm actually going to play it in full to close the show. I normally wouldn't do that because that's Todd's gimmick over at Wrestle Radio Australia. Definitely give them a subscribe as well while you're here. But there's a lot more to talk about with these upcoming PWA and MCW shows, and that's actually why we did 2 bonus episodes yesterday, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, breaking down everything you need to know for each of these events. So if you want to hear those, just hit the subscribe button in your podcatcher of choice. Scroll back a few episodes. They should be easy enough to find. That's enough PWA MCW talk. They got their own hour-long episodes yesterday, so go back and listen to those. But let's move on with some of the announcements. We're catching up. We're catching up over everything that happened over Christmas and New Year's. Iron Fist Pro has been on a roll. These guys have one of the best rosters in Australian professional wrestling. I'm just going to put that out there. They bring in some of the best guys from interstate. They also bring, the first show they brought over Hideki Suzuki, and, this time around they're bringing out the Rascals. We already knew the Rascals were coming down. Desmond Xavier, Zachary Wentz, Trey Miguel, but we've also now learned that the show is going to feature J.K. Moody, of course, from Southern Pro Wrestling over in New Zealand, Robbie Eagles, Tommy Knight, Matt Hayter, Michael Weaver, Rat Daddy, the Street Gang Hooligans, which I'm fairly sure this is their first interstate booking as a tag team, to my knowledge. I know they were booked for one fall, but those final shows fell through, so I think this might be their first time teaming up outside of Western Australia. I could be wrong there, but just to my knowledge. We also have the Velocities and the Pariah. It's looking like a fantastic lineup. I'm really excited for this show. The most interesting thing to note here is we have the Pariah announced, and the Pariah are Riot City guys. We have Matt Hayter and Michael Weaver, who are PWSA guys that also work ACW from time to time. You have Rat Daddy and Tommy Knight there, both of whom are Rampage guys, and they worked the first Iron Fist show. This is amazing. As far as I said, like, we're going to see potentially crossover matches in Adelaide that you wouldn't see anywhere else, because the guys just kind of work where they work, and that's it. And this is a place where they're all working, and it's really exciting to see the best of Adelaide and Australian professional wrestling and the world with the Rascals all in one place. I'm noticing, of course, that you've got Street Gang Hooligans announced, you've got the Pariah announced, you've got the Velocities announced, we've got Robbie Eagles announced. Now, Nick Golfus isn't on the list of people that have been announced, but I got to assume he worked the first show. I got to assume he's going to be on this one as well. And Nick Golfus and Robbie Eagles, you know, Sniper of the Skies and the Sniper, they had a moment at Wrestle Rampage recently. So I don't know if they're going to be looking to team up as well, but potentially that's another tag team. We're looking really tag team heavy here, which I love. Australia has some fantastic bloody tag teams. And a lot of the times with other promotions, you don't have necessarily the biggest tag team divisions. You got 2 or 3 teams here, 1 or 2 teams there. But if you actually pulled them all together, which it looks like Iron Fist is doing somewhat, if you pull them all together, you've got a really, really, really strong tag team scene in Australia. And you could hold some amazing tag division. You could have an amazing tag division if you pulled teams from all across the country, which it looks like they're doing. And of course, the Rascals. So this looks like a really tag heavy show. So I'm not sure if if they're advertised as Street Gang Hooligans, as Velocities, and as the Pariah. So I don't know which one of these guys. It looks like we're going to get 2 tag team matches. I don't know who I would pick facing the Rascals out of these teams. Maybe even a Rascals as a trio against Robbie and the Velocities. That'd be pretty cool. But I selfishly, as an Adelaide guy, I want to see the Pariah in there with the Rascals, because I think it'd be a great breakout match for them with plenty of eyes on it, especially if this ends up streaming live on Kling, or if this ends up on YouTube like the first show did. It's looking fantastic. I'm really excited for this one. I love tag team wrestling, and there's a lot of tag teams announced for this. The talent looks insane. I'm very excited for Iron Fist Pro, as I was for the first one. So, keep up the good work, Iron Fist Pro. The show date and venue were announced, by the way. So the 15th of March, this one takes place. It's the Way of the Fist, they're calling it. 15th of March at Estonian Hall, which is a great venue. Used to host Riot City Wrestling, currently hosts Adelaide Championship Wrestling as well for their bigger shows. So I'm hoping they get a bigger attendance this time around, but I am very, very excited about this show. Something else I find very exciting. We all know I'm a Gavin McGavin mark, and Gavin has been booking himself all around the country in what he is calling his Gavin vs. Australia tour. So this month alone, you've got the 12th. That's this weekend. He's up in Queensland for New Valhalla Wrestling, where he's defending his EPW title against Jake Nova. On the 13th, on Sunday, he's at PWA in a fatal 4-way match, which you can hear about on our PWA preview show from yesterday. On the 18th next week, he is at Wrestling Go. He's champion versus champion against silver medalist Ricky South, who also had a big announcement this week. We'll touch on that later. On the next day, on the 19th, he's at Nui Pro, where he's laid out an open challenge to anyone for his EPW title. And it doesn't even stop there. So February 2nd, of course, he's Hot Summer Nights at EPW. Mick Moretti is challenging for Gavin's Gold. And then in March, the tour rolls back to New South Wales with a show at Hunter Valley Wrestling on the 23rd of March. Gavin McGavin is not only one of the most talented guys in the country, he's one of the hardest working guys in the country from everything I can gather. And you can tell he's made the decision to make 2019 his bitch from the looks of things. He's absolutely making 2019 a marquee year for himself. It's a very exciting time to be a fan of real wrestling in Australia, that's for sure. I mentioned Hunter Valley Wrestling in there as well, so he's heading to Hunter Valley Wrestling. They also announced this week that Adam Brooks is making his way to the territory in March for their March 2nd show, which will also feature an 8-wrestler single elimination tournament to determine who in the territory is the elite. That might be a bit of trademark infringement, boys, but good try there. I like it. I love tournaments, man. King of the Ring was my shit as a kid. I don't know why WWE stopped doing King of the Ring. I mean, it got a bit silly there towards the end where everyone put on the freaking crown and robe, but King of the Ring It was fantastic. I love single elimination tournaments, so this Hunter Valley Wrestling show is right up my alley. I also touched, I'm trying to rush through all these because there's so much stuff to get through, because we had such a big break, but I also touched on, EPW Hot Summer's Night there. Big announcement this week, the EPW Invitational Final between Taylor King and Gorgeous Gary, which we talked about previously. It had to be postponed due to the child star Taylor King's injury. It's been rescheduled, and it is happening at Hot Summer Nights, February 2nd. The match will take place. The question here, though, is what Taylor King are we going to get? So he's coming back from an injury. He's cleared. He's coming back. Now, I've talked about it a bit on previous shows, but since his surgery, Taylor King has been acting a bit off, I guess. He's wiped his social media presence clean. He's declared, I am not famous anymore. He hasn't really been heard from. I've reached out in the DMs, but not receiving any response, which is not surprising considering even the TK Task Force have supposedly not heard from him. So Jack Evans has taken control of his social media in recent days to declare that he's worried for the child star, and he shared an encounter on YouTube, on Taylor King's YouTube, that they had earlier this week where, you know, he's expressing his worry that he hasn't heard from Taylor King, and then he sees Taylor King in what seems to be a parking lot outside a warehouse, perhaps where they train. And yeah, Taylor King's just sort of staring at him and lights a cigarette, and yeah, this is very interesting to me. It's out of character for Taylor King declaring he's not famous anymore. The social media wipe, he's been posting these cryptic videos counting something down. It's very interesting to me, and I'm hoping Taylor King picks up the win here, but more than anything, I'm looking forward to seeing where he takes this character in 2019. If this is like a former child star gimmick where he's becoming dark and disturbed, I'm interested. I'm very interested in it. Let's take a quick look at some Aussies overseas now. Jet Ruka and Tyson Baxter, who featured on my wrestlers you may not have heard of, but should definitely pay attention to in 2019 because they wrestle good and probably do other stuff good too. Bonus episode, which came out on the 1st of January. These guys were my pick for act to watch in Melbourne this year. Then proving me right, they've been announced for Melbourne City Wrestling, yeah, so they're definitely ones to watch. They had some matches in Japan for World Underground Wrestling. I can't find much information on them since World Underground Wrestling is quite underground. I did see some images, though, on Twitter and Instagram, and the ring was tiny. It had chains for ropes. It looked insane. And that's about all I know, really, to be honest with you. But fantastic work to Jet Ruka and Tyson Baxter. Something I saw on Twitter was that the Aussies put on one of the best matches I've ever seen in front of this few people. I can't remember the Twitter handle, but either way, that's very high praise for our boys putting on a show in what looks like an underground club in Japan with chains for ropes. Incredibly badass. But also, overseas, Ricky South, a B-plus favorite, has been announced for Chikara. Another B-plus favorite. He's going to be competing in their Young Lions Cup on March 16th. This is a tournament that has been won in the past by Chuck Taylor, Heidi Lovelace, who of course is Ruby Riott in WWE now. ACH, Lindsay Dorado, Ricochet are among former finalists. And now our very own Tough Stuff Ricky South is throwing his name into that ring in March. I could not be more excited to see what comes of this. We know Mick Moretti has had some success in Chikara. The Four Nations has had some success over there. Shazza as well. It's amazing. Madison Eagles, of course. Chikaratopia is only around $8 a month. So I definitely recommend getting onto that before March so you can see Ricky doing his thing live in the US. I'll drop a link in the show notes for Chikaratopia. I'm going to talk a bit about streaming services in a minute, so I'll drop a few links in the show notes, I think. But yeah, Ricky going over for the Young Lions Cup is very exciting. Meanwhile, over in Europe, Kellyanne and Alan Payne are absolutely killing their little tour of the European independence. I've seen them pop up on WXW and RevPro On Demand offerings, which has been really cool to see. Kellyanne's been picking up wins in WXW, especially, looking fantastic. Meanwhile, Alan Payne's been mostly eating pins in tag matches, but he's always entertaining, and the crowd seem to really be responding to them, which is great. If you want to follow their antics over there, two places you should really pay attention to are WXW Now, which I think runs on Vimeo for about $11 US, and RevPro On Demand, which will set you back around $8 a month on Pivot Share. But yeah, speaking of streaming services, Australia's streaming game is picking up, it seems. So we talked about Wrestle Rampager live streaming via Kling. One Fall Entertainment did their whole thing in December where they live streamed via Kling. and they brought live streaming to Australian wrestling, which is a legacy that they should be proud of. But EPW's Vimeo service at the moment, From The Vault, it's sitting at half price for January, February, and March. So if you're on the fence about whether you should take the plunge or not, now is that time. It's a huge back catalogue, and it's $4.50 a month at the moment. So for the price tag, you're getting an insane amount of value. We're talking about the company that produced TMDK, Davis Storm, many more. You want to check this out. $4.50 a month. You can't go wrong. The Aussie streaming services really spoiled us over Christmas. PWA offered up a code to get 1 month free, which has unfortunately expired as of right now. So don't try to enter PW Slay. It's over. That ended on the 2nd of January. But MCW added a bunch of shows which were previously unavailable. They added those up as Christmas gifts over the Christmas weekend. SHWA posted Ascension X to SHWA Rewind for free. You can watch that now. I will put a link in the show notes. It's a fantastic show. Well worth the watch, especially at the brilliant price tag of $0. Cannot argue with that price tag. PWA also recently uploaded the sit-down chat that High Spots did with Jonah Rock, Brooksy, and Robbie at this year's Bowler, so that's well worth a look before their big triple threat match this weekend. Definitely get onto the stream. The whole Aussie streaming sector seems to be heating up. IWA just launched IWARewind.com. As of right now, as I'm recording this, I'm looking at the IWARewind.com page. There are only 3 shows available. The 3 of the biggest shows, though, Fighting Spirit 1, 2, and 3. However, they have stated there is more coming in the month of January, and they are working on getting the archives up as well as posting new events moving forward, which is very exciting. IWA are the longest running company in Australian professional wrestling right now, so this could be an amazing treasure trove if it's done right. IWA have produced some good wrestling over the years and still today. I mean, talents like Jackson Kelly, Kelly Gang, Matt Rogers, Jonah Rock, Randall, tearing things up over there. I'm hoping this turns out well. As we've talked about with other streaming services, I mean, you know, video editing, web maintenance, these are side hustles for the people involved for the most part. In Australian wrestling, you know, these guys are working jobs, full-time jobs a lot of the time. They're also needing to work out, stay fit, train, put on shows, and then on top of that, edit these videos and get them up for general consumption. So it's not the fastest process. I know that with IWA specifically, I've often had trouble getting answers to questions about events and things, so it seems like, you know, they may be stretched thin, so I'm cautiously optimistic on this one. It's definitely one to keep an eye on. There's a lot of potential in the IWA tape library, and I'm hoping that you know, they can get some more events up soon and we can get across, you know, watching lots and lots of IWA shows in the future. Another one to keep an eye on is Melbourne's BCW, who have also been amassing quite a library with some huge international stars, some incredible matches to be seen from everything I hear. They've been talking about releasing footage for a while now, from what I understand, but nothing has ever come to fruition. DVDs and things have never really ended up being released, but there has been talk that they are planning to launch a streaming service in January or February 2019, sometime in the new year, is what I've heard. So we haven't seen anything official as of yet. It's a wait and see type situation, but there are some real juicy matches in that tape library too. So hoping that BCW get that one together shortly. PCW, Professional Championship Wrestling out of Melbourne, have also thrown their hat in the ring. They're asking fans on Facebook if they would be interested in an on-demand service and if they would be more likely to subscribe if events were live streamed. So I suppose, you know, similar to Rampage's live streaming of their events on Kling, it's looking like we may have the PCW doing something similar. We may have a whole lot more Aussie Grapps to watch moving forward in 2019, which is fantastic news. Accessibility, accessibility, accessibility. I say it all the time. You know, if we can't watch your stuff, we can't talk about it. If we can't talk about it, new people can't hear about it. If new people can't hear about it, this thing's not going to grow. So accessibility is key. And someone who really understands that, SPW over in New Zealand, they launched, like, possibly, they've made a huge leap when it comes to accessibility. You can now download an SPW app on your mobile phone or tablet. So it's on iOS, it's on Android, Google Play, etc. It allows you to log into their Pivot Share if you're already a subscriber, and it makes it so much easier to watch on iOS compared to the browsers. If not, you can sign up and pay directly from your phone using Apple or Google's built-in billing. Super convenient. Paying with gift cards is now a possibility. There's no such thing as a Pivot Share gift card, but there is an Apple gift card. So you can get yourself an Apple gift card if you're the kind, if you're like my mum and you refuse to accept that it's 2019 and you can put your credit card online without being robbed. If you refuse to accept that, you can go down the road, you can buy a $30 voucher for iTunes and you can subscribe right there in the app, which is fantastic. Really cool to see SPW taking this leap. I hope that we can get a similar app for PWA and for Underworld and for all of these ones soon, because the Pivot Share sites on iOS are not the greatest. Look, I'm not going to be complaining, compared to other companies where you can't watch matches at all. I'm happy to deal with the crappy browser on my iPad when I want to watch Underworld Wrestling or when I want to watch PWA. That's fine. I much prefer doing it on the laptop, but when I'm on the iPad, it's fine. But having an app, oh man, it makes it so much easier, and it's very exciting to see SPW taking that leap, and I hope that more companies follow suit if it's possible. But while on the topic of New Zealand and SPW, a little bit of controversy this week, and I don't want to spend too long on this because the B Plus is all about positivity, but one of the SPW ring announcers made a post in a Facebook group for New Zealand Wrestling about Candy Lee hindering women's wrestling in New Zealand. So Candy Lee is a fantastic up-and-coming wrestler in New Zealand who had a brilliant 2018 year collecting quite a few of the women's titles over there. She also happens to be transgender. Now, this individual proceeded in the post to refer to Candy Lee as he, which is just rude, really. I mean, I don't know. Say we go out after a wrestling show, yeah, and you start introducing me to people as Gregory. Yeah, I'm going to correct you. I'm Greg, right? My name's Greg. No one calls me Gregory. And then you introduce everyone you introduce me to. They're all fine. They're calling me Greg. It's sweet. But you continue to insist my name is Gregory, and that's what you're going to call me because that's what my birth certificate says. You're an asshole. Like, you're an asshole at the end of the day. If that's like, if it's literally just a linguistic preference. I mean, it's a much more than that. Don't get me wrong. But for you, if you don't believe it's a thing or whatever belief you have, if that's your thing, man, like, it's literally just a linguistic change for you to make someone else feel better. For you, that's all it is. And for them, it's a whole lot more than that. So it's basic stuff, we talk about, progress, right? Don't be a dick. It's pretty simple stuff. But yeah, I don't know. It doesn't hurt you to acknowledge another individual's identification, is what I'm saying. And Candy Lee took a screenshot of this guy's post, shared it to her social media. He subsequently got dragged by Australian and New Zealand wrestling Twitter. And the best part too, in situations like this, it's very easy for it to turn into a pretty ugly scene. But from what I saw, and I'm sure I didn't see everything, but from what I saw, people were really civil about this, and there was a ton of support for Candy Lee. And the way I see it is this: I mean, the guy was posting about Candy Lee hindering women's wrestling because she's really a man and has an unfair advantage. An unfair advantage in a worked sport? It's a form of entertainment. An unfair advantage. Like, Wonder Woman has an unfair advantage in that movie because she's Amazonian and also scripted to win. It's a work. There's no unfair advantage debate to be had. If you want to have a debate about physically competitive sports, like combat sports, go ahead. I think weight classes are more appropriate than gender divisions, to be honest. But, I mean, I'd rather fight someone my own size. I don't know. I think size has a lot more to do with it and even experience than something like gender. But in actual combat sports, sure, if you want to have this discussion, go ahead, as long as you can do it in a polite and respectful way, not erasing someone's identity. But this is wrestling. And what wrestling is this beautiful art form that attracts all kinds of outcasts and weirdos and losers. I said it. I'm going to say it. We're losers, right? This started as a carnival thing right there alongside the freak show. Newsflash. If you like wrestling, you're probably weird, right? If you like wrestling enough to be in it, you're definitely weird. You are a nerd. If you like wrestling, you are well outside the mainstream. And in these communities, on the fringes, alternative communities, it's in these places that we should be able to be the most accepting of people different from us, people different from society. I mean, just don't be a dick. Just be B+, It's not that hard. It's not. Yeah, so, big shout out to Candy Lee, because I think she handled the situation well. Obviously, it was a rough situation for her, and no one should be treated like that. And SPW as well, to their credit, SPW issued a statement on Twitter, and they said they're addressing the situation internally, and they had what seemed to me a very measured and fair response to the situation, and they're going to be taking care of it. I hope they do take care of it, because, you know, wrestling is for everyone. I know people think, oh, you know, stupid phrases people say. It is. Wrestling is for everyone, man. Everyone should be able to have a go, and yeah, I don't know. A bit of a rant, but thanks for listening. Moving on, I touched on it at the top of the show earlier this week. We had the official announced Shaz for Everything Day, in which I announced that Shazza McKenzie is our guest for this week's interview. She was also announced for a match with Hot Sauce Tracy Williams on WrestleMania weekend, also as the captain of a Team International taking on a Team USA, captained by Jordan Grace. And perhaps most importantly for our listeners, she was announced as the first competitor in a tournament to crown the inaugural World Series Wrestling Women's Champion. Savannah Summers has also been announced since, and we're waiting for more names to be thrown in. Jordan Grace was announced today as well. The title match itself will be a triple threat on night 4 of the tour in Hurstville. It's made up of the 3 competitors who have won the qualifying matches. So since the title match is on night 4, we can assume nights 1 to 3 will host the qualifiers. And we've talked about World Series Wrestling before and their what we consider their issues with women's booking on the show. We've talked about the one big flaw we see with World Series Wrestling, and we love everything that World Series Wrestling is doing. We are big fans of World Series Wrestling, but the one flaw that we've found is that they tend to have what seems like one token women's match. They have some fantastic women's performers, don't get me wrong, but the match itself, in the way it's promoted, it feels like tokenism. Often a wrestler in the match is a wife or girlfriend of another touring wrestler, and as we've said before, we don't have a problem with husbands or wives traveling together, working together. It's smart. Like, I would want to do that. Who wouldn't want to do that? What we want, though, is more women in higher profile matches in general, and we're not the only ones. I know that the On the Turnbuckle boys have voiced similar concerns. This could rectify it. It's certainly a step in the right direction, as far as I'm concerned. The women's matches in WSW have seemed kind of aimless previously, for the most part. It's just sort of get in there and have a match with the International. But now, with a title in the mix, having a title's not the be-all and end-all. MCW proved that point with, they tell very compelling women's stories without a title. But it can help sometimes for them to have something to go to war over. But if the title itself is the only change, and we continue to see the same style of tokenism in the booking with, it's the same one match versus an international, but now with shiny object, then the problem kind of remains. If the title is actually symbolic of a real intention with the company to take the women seriously, and this is an awesome thing. As our only real touring company, it can be a great thing for women's wrestling in this country, because we have the talent, man. There is a deep pool of female talent to draw from when we're talking about going across all 8 states and territories. We're definitely hoping that the title is symbolic of an actual change in the division, and not just a shiny toy for the token match to center on and have a bit more direction. So, yeah, big things hopefully for World Series Wrestling for the women's division. And with that rant also out of the way, let's get to it. Shazza McKenzie, for the second time here on Aussie Grapps Fridays. Shazza is our second recurring guest, and you can go way back in the archives to when we were a baby podcast to hear our interview with Shazza right around the time she was announced for King of Trios. It was really good to catch up with Shazza again, my personal favorite Australian professional wrestler. So here it is. Make sure you stick around after the interview as well to hear all the shows happening this weekend across this great nation of ours. And of course, the promo I mentioned at the top of the show as well with Matty Wahlberg, all coming up after the Shazza interview, which you can hear right after a word from our sponsors.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Christmas has come and gone, and with it, the disappointment of those Secret Santa staples, the shave kit, the sports hygiene packs, and seasonal socks is fading. As we roll on, though, into the new year, it's time to make resolutions, so why not resolve to look better in 2019 and get yourself the gift that keeps on giving and never disappoints, Threadbox. Threadbox is a subscription clothes shopping service which for as little as $40 per month will send you a box of personally curated goodies straight to your doorstep. I get the $160 package, which comes with over $200 worth of fresh goodies each month. Kept me looking fly for all my Christmas engagements this year. You get to communicate with the Threadbox stylist assigned to you by email regarding what it is you need, and they will tailor the box accordingly. And in the unlikely event that you don't like what they send you, you send it back, they will replace it with something new and make note of the things you don't like so that they can avoid that kind of thing in the future. Threadbox is a truly unbelievable service that no man should be living without, so head over to threadbox.com.au today and use our code TheB+15 when you check out to get 15% off your first box. January is here and we are fast approaching WrestleMania season. Royal Rumble and the road to WrestleMania are around the corner, so the time to dilly-dally is past us. If you want to experience WrestleMania live, and who doesn't, let's be honest, you deserve it. The best and really the only way to do it is with All Aussie Travelers. All Aussie Travelers are new to the wrestling travel package game, but they are veterans at travel, and they have put together a package that cannot be beaten. For less than $7,500, All Aussie Travelers are going to send you to New York, New York, with return flights, airport transfers, full accommodation, and tickets to the WWE Hall of Fame, NXT pre-show party, NXT TakeOver, WrestleMania, Monday Night Raw, SmackDown Live, and more. The coolest part about these packages is that for NXT TakeOver, Raw, and SmackDown, you are going to be seated in your own private VIP suite, normally not available to the public, but All Aussie Travelers have you covered, man. They got this locked down. It has its own bar, it has its own bathroom access, and all the luxuries that a VIP box comes with, not least of which, of course, an incredible view for everything happening in the ring. All of this for under $7,500. They're practically giving these packages away, man. You'd be crazy not to check it out. So head over to All Aussie Travelers on Facebook. The link is in the show notes. And tell them that the B+ sent you. And let's go watch WrestleMania in style. Joining me at this time for the second time interviewing on the Aussie Grapps podcast, Shazza McKenzie. How are you, Shazza?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I am very well. We are not long past Christmas, and I'm still enjoying my post-Christmas snacks, like leftover Christmas snacks and what have you. So I'm feeling festive.
You feeling good? You feeling festive? I left all my snacks. I left them all at the in-laws and just got out, and I was like, well, they're not near me, so now I can't eat them. Just conveniently left all my chocolates there as well that everyone gave me.
Right.
It's like, oh, whoops, I forgot them all, and now I can't eat them.
Smart.
But now I want them. But that's I have no self-control, so my self-control is just not being around it.
Yeah, no, the only way I can ever be fit is if I make sure everyone in the house is doing the same thing as me. It's like, no, we're having nothing but kale and nuts.
Yeah, exactly. There cannot be any cheese, there cannot be any chocolate, there cannot be any, I don't even know, there can't be anything that I'm not eating in the house if I'm trying to be healthy.
Yeah, because if it's there, you'll eat it.
Yeah, even if I don't like it. It'll just be something that I'm not supposed to eat. And I'll just be like, this is it. This is the moment. And then, next minute, I've eaten a packet of, Vita Wheats that aren't even, that great.
Yeah.
But they're not what I'm supposed to eat. So they're naughty. And so then I eat them.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I completely understand. The last time we spoke, things were a little different for you. You were planning a big to-do. Now the big to-do is done. Congratulations on getting married.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It all, once it happens, though, it's kind of like, oh, cool. Now what do I do with all that time that I spent planning stuff?
Do you feel different?
Oh, no, not at all.
it's just a thing, right? It's so weird.
Yeah. It's just a big party. It was just a nice, fun, big party with all my friends, and it was a really fun day. It was really awesome. It wasn't stressful because it was just I'm just going to go to a party with all my friends and I get to wear a pretty dress and get my makeup done. So it's great.
That's awesome. So you didn't get your bridezilla out?
No, everyone all day they were just like, why is Shaz so fine? I was like, guys, it's fine. It's just going to go to the, I've spent a year and a half planning this. If it's not going to go right now, there's nothing I can do at this point. It's done. Right. It rained and stuff, and I didn't care. You just don't care at that point. You're just oh, well, whatever happens now is going to happen. You just got to go with it.
Yeah. You were very zen, just rolling with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just whatever happens.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I did see you posted about an announcer somewhere. After you got married, there was a little confusion with your name.
It was like, we had the issue was, so we had, like, a discussion beforehand, like, and I just thought it was, like, friendly banter. Like, there was now that you're married, what do I call you now? And I was like, well, if I was going to take his name, I'd have to be, I made some joke that I would have to be Shazza Jordan, because technically Unsocial is his first name. And I was like, so that wouldn't work. And he was like, oh, I was thinking you'd be Unsocial Shazza. And I was like, well, that's not going to work, mate. But like, it was just a bit of banter, a bit of jokes, bit of lols. Like, didn't think anything of it. Didn't think I needed to, at the end of the conversation, be like, but I'm still Shazza McKenzie. Like,
right.
That hasn't changed. I was just making jokes or whatever. And then when I got in the ring and they were doing the in-the-ring announcements, he was like, and Shazza. And then I was just like, and hello. Like,
that's incredibly awkward.
I have a last name. Hello. But yeah, and then I think Jordan was like the match after mine or whatever. So when he got out there, he took the microphone off him and made some deal about how he'd let him announce him, but he'd probably get it wrong anyway.
Nice. Gotta love that.
Yeah.
But something else that I did want to talk to you about that was happening last time we talked, you had just been announced for King of Trios. Now,
yes.
Unfortunately, you didn't bring back the title. You're not a Queen of Trio.
I'm not, but it was still the cool, like, it's pretty ridiculous that happened the same year as my wedding, because now I don't actually know what was the best day of 2018.
Wow.
Like, main eventing King of Trios or getting married. I don't really, like, both are pretty cool things.
Yeah, it's a pretty tough call.
They're pretty bucket list items there. So, but yeah, like, it was insane. Like, the first night we were the main event, which was horrifying and everything like that, because who wants to make their debut at the company that they've watched for years in the main event?
Right.
Like,
a little bit daunting.
Yeah, like, to go on after all the people that you watch and look up to, and you're somehow supposed to follow them, is very overwhelming. But I was very lucky because I was doing it with Jess and Madison, so I had, like, two of my best friends there, and I think that made it so much easier, because it was like, oh, I'm here with my friends, like, it's fine, like, this is just like any other show, but I'm just hanging out with my friends. We just happen to be wrestling these really good Joshi wrestlers and happen to be in Philadelphia, and Mike Quackenbush happens to be on commentary watching us.
Right. And so that was
other than that, normal.
Yeah, right. And so that was against the Tokyo Joshi, I think they were called the Freedom Fighters, right? In this.
Yeah, I think that's what they.
But it was the Tokyo Joshi girls.
Yes.
And so how is it? Are there inroads there? Are we going to see Shazza make her way? That's what I want to know. I want to know, is Shazza going to make her way to Tokyo Joshi Pro?
Oh my god, that is my, like, absolute dream. Like,
see, that's my dream.
Because, like,
to see you there.
Leading into, like, into Shikara, like, I started watching a lot of TJPW because I was like, oh, well, like, I need to make sure I'm familiar with these girls or whatever. And I started watching that product and I was like, this is awesome. Like, it's just so much fun and everyone has cool characters and everyone's like, I was like, this is where I want to be. This is the funnest place ever. So that is one of my goals for 2019. I don't know if it'll happen, but I'm trying.
Yeah.
I'll do whatever I can to get there, because to wrestle in Japan is like it. I have to tick that off the bucket list before I can retire. Let's be honest.
Definitely, I feel like it's like as a fan of your work, I feel like you would fit really well. A lot of people want Shazza for Stardom, and I'm on that. I'm 100% on that bandwagon as well. Yes, Shazza for Stardom, absolutely. However, I'm a big Tokyo Joshi fan, and so like that was the match for King of Trios. That was the match for me. Like I was like, I cannot wait to see this match. And it main event at night one, I was so keen for it, and it was amazing. But yeah, so for me, I'm like Tokyo Joshi Pro. I feel like you'd be a perfect fit. If there were any promoters listening to this, bring out the Up girls and let Shazza be an honorary Up girl for them coming out here to Australia. Anything like that will make me happy. That's what I want.
We should just have like a TJPW, like, versus PWA show.
Yes, please. Or versus PWWA.
But even versus the guys. Like, we were just like, we wanted to steal them all because they're so adorable and so small, all of them.
Yes.
Even Miyu. She's still as small and adorable.
Yes.
They're all...
But still also
like,
very hard
but
hitting.
Scary. Very scary, but small and adorable.
Yes. Yeah, I would not personally call them adorable because I would be terrified.
Yes. That's fair.
Of what they're capable of. But,
yes.
I mean, while you were over there, that sort of, well, not King of Trios, it was when you went over for Shimmer, I think things lined up with Evolution, and you actually attended Evolution as well, yeah?
Yeah, I did. We worked out that Shimmer was, like, the week before Evolution, and we were all like, well, like, let's just stay another week, because when else is this ever, like...
Yeah, that's amazing.
When are we going to have the opportunity to see the first ever all-women's pay-per-view ever, like, and be there live? Like, it was such a, like, cool, it was such a cool experience, but it was also, like, this moment where I realized that I'm from, like, the older generation of, like, women's wrestlers in Australia, because, like, Dakota Kai came out, and Billie Kay and Peyton, and I was, like, crying, and I was like, oh, queens, girls. And then, like, I had, like, the Blue Nation with me and Indy Hartwell, and they were like, oh, Rhea Ripley, Toni Storm. And I was like, yeah, like, they're cool and all, but guys, like, Billie and Peyton and Dakota, guys, like, these are the girls.
Yeah, they're
like,
the OGs.
Yeah, like, I was like, no, like, this is what I care about. And I was like, oh, this is, like, my weird moment where I was like, oh, I'm old.
Yeah.
Or at least older than all of you children that I hang out with for some reason.
I get torn in that as well when people talk, like, because there is a little bit of, like, you know, Billie Payton. I mean, we all support all of them, of course, but Billie Payton, and then there's of course people that are big Rhea fans, and I'm like, I like both because I was in Sydney like 5-6 years ago, and I saw, you know, Casey Cassidy and Evie and all of them on the PWA shows, and then I moved to Adelaide right as Rhea debuted as well.
Yeah. Oh wow. So you saw, like, from the get-go.
Yeah, so
cool.
I was ground floor on both, and I'm just like, why can't we all just love all of them?
We can't. No, we can. We love all of them. But, like, Billie, Peyton, and Dakota, as weird as it is to call them all that, that, like, they'll always be my homegirls.
Yeah, absolutely.
They'll be the ones. They're the ones that I, like, trained with and, like, spent the, like, hours traveling with and everything like that. So they're, like, I know I know the other girls put in the work, but, like, I was there with the girls while they put in the work to get there. So I'm like, yeah, girls, you did this. Like, and they did it when no one thought that they could do it. Like,
before the road had been paved.
Yeah, like, no one thought in hell's chance that they would both get signed at that tryout. Like, there was just, why would they take two very similar looking girls, like, with very similar backgrounds? Like, why would you do that? Like, you already had Emma there at the time, so they also kind of were, like, a similar look to Emma. And so we're all just like, yeah, everyone was very like, no, that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And then when they both got signed, it was like, hell yeah, like, show them mother effers and stuff, because I don't like swearing, but yeah. Right. Yeah, show them all.
And now WWE are announcing women's tag team titles too, so they're perfectly positioned as that duo that have been doing it from the beginning together.
Exactly.
It's insane.
Yes.
And so
I will cry.
Yeah. So this is all to say, like, not just because they're your friends though, right? But you're a fan, yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And you're one of those wrestlers that it's okay to acknowledge that you're a fan, yeah.
Oh my god, if you're not a fan, like, I don't understand why you being a wrestler, because it hurts. Like, if you're not a fan, why would you do this?
Yeah, well, I mean, I say the same thing. I'm like, everyone who's involved in wrestling in any way, whether they're a referee, a wrestler, anyone, they're probably a fan, or else why the hell would they be around it?
Yeah.
But for some people, there's a weird thing of not being able to. I don't know, you don't want to be a mark or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But it's really good that you as a fan and as a wrestler are able to weigh in on things on Twitter. So when Twitter went crazy after the whole Nia Jax, Becky Lynch thing,
yes,
you stirred the pot a little. I don't know if it was your intention to stir the pot.
It was not. I was just like, because I just write random things as I'm walking to work in the morning. Like,
oh yeah, I know. Yeah,
it's just like, that's when I tweet, just like 7 a.m. as I'm like doing things, like, and I don't know why that's when I tweet, but it is. And I was just put my phone down, and then like 2 hours later, I'm like, oh, Lance Storm is mad at me. Okay. I'm not going to take that. I'm going to talk back to him because I ain't no pussy. And then, yeah, that's
right.
what
So
happened.
not a fan of the free veteran advice.
No, I stopped after that because I was like, I was getting like genuinely upset, like not upset, but like angry. And I didn't want to be genuine angry on Twitter. Like,
right.
Because then that's like
angry.
an emotion. Yeah. Like
amazing.
I know when not to like tweet my actual emotions. Like everything else that I tweet, like I don't tweet in like, in like rage fueled emotion things. Like, yeah, like I have emotions towards the things that I am tweeting, but it's never like a spur of the moment. I'm really angry at this person. This person's dumb. Like,
yeah,
because otherwise you're going to say stupid things that 2 hours later you're going to be like, well, did not mean that. So
yeah, well, it's smart not to speak in anger, so of course it's smart not to tweet in anger.
Yeah, exactly. And tweets last a lot longer than words out of your mouth.
Yes, they do.
Even with good old tweet delete.
Yeah, well, there's whole patrols now that are dedicated to combing back through people's Twitter to see what they said in 2007. So
it's insane.
But that wasn't, so you sort of, everything exploded and Twitter went crazy and Lance Storm got on board and everything. But you actually said in a tweet to me that it wasn't the craziest your Twitter has been this year.
Oh, I mean, I had a pretty insane year this year on Twitter.
See, I get the impression when you're on Twitter, you're kind of, you're sort of putting yourself a little at a distance and having a laugh half the time. Am I mean,
yeah, I'm not like personally offended by anything.
Right. Okay.
Otherwise, I would like, if you get personally offended by anything written on Twitter, especially when the world is attacking you, it'll be bad. Like you'll think horrible things about yourself and you'll end up being severely depressed, because if you start believing what 100 trolls on the internet think of you, then like, because there's people that literally just go at, like, create accounts to go and like find people to yell at and abuse. Like, it's not.
Yeah, like, they have the egg there just so that they can hide behind it and be like, go F and die, and just tweet horrible things for no reason.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, if I ever like actually took any of it to heart, I'd probably be a very sad person and never leave the house. But luckily, I understand that these Twitter people will probably, when they see me in real life, not say that to my face.
Right. Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure most of them are like 12.
Yeah, there's safety and anonymity as well.
Yeah. So that's, like, you can't take the internet too serious.
Right, but if the Nia Jax Becky Lynch one wasn't the biggest blow up, which I haven't seen, obviously. I haven't noticed the controversies.
I had giant blow ups on Twitter this year. I had my Ronda Rousey tweet.
I didn't see this one. No, I did not see this one.
Oh my gosh, the internet went at me. So I tweeted something about, I think it was just after she won the women's title. And it was like something along the lines of like, you guys are all mad that Ronda's winning the women's title or whatever, but you need to understand that she is your women's revolution. You wouldn't have a women's revolution without her.
Right. Okay.
Because if she hadn't proven that women could draw money in the UFC, then it wouldn't have mattered what the Four Horsewomen were trying to do on NXT. No one would have given them the time, the money, or the exposure if it hadn't been proven by Ronda that women can be a mainstream draw.
Yeah, a mainstream sports megastar, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like
to the extent that I think previously you've had like the Williams sisters.
Yeah, exactly. And so like obviously it's the women's revolution comes from everything that all the girls have done throughout the years, but if Ronda hadn't knocked that door down and proved like so certainly that a woman can draw money and be that type of megastar, then I don't think the powers that be would have opened their eyes to what like Charlotte and Sasha and Becky and Bayley could do.
Right. Yeah. And now you get, as well, Ronda Rousey brings mainstream eyes, and now Becky Lynch is sort of becoming a new Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like, she's the talk of the town.
Yeah.
People are like, look at what she did on Tuesday night, you know?
Exactly.
And that wouldn't happen if people weren't tuning in because, what, Ronda Rousey's wrestling now? What's going on?
Yeah, exactly. She
but that was controversial, was it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Because there's a lot of people that hate Ronda. There's also a lot of people that love Ronda. It's very, like, it's a lot of both sides, and I get some of the reasons why people dislike Ronda outside of what she does in sport, like things that she said. I can understand why people can take a distaste to her for those things.
Yeah.
But when it comes to being a female in a professional sport, what her influence is undeniable in where we are with this women's revolution. And so she deserves, like, in my opinion, she deserves to be that the Raw Women's Champion. She deserves to have this spotlight on her, even if she didn't spend 3 years in development and 10 years on the indies before that, or whatever it is that we're supposed to do to pay our dues.
Yeah.
Because she's bringing the eyes and bringing the attention. Like, would we have gotten Evolution without Ronda, like the pay-per-view? I don't know. Like, if we hadn't, like, as much as, to me, Becky and Charlotte were the main event, the reason Nikki and Ronda were the main event is because they brought mainstream eyes.
Yeah.
And that's something that's a drawing power, and that's part of being a professional wrestler, is being able to draw a crowd and sell tickets.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the job, right? Like, that's what you have to do. You got to put butts in seats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't really matter what you do when you're there. Plus, she's had some freaking fantastic matches. Like,
yeah, no, look, I think, and when it comes to paying dues as well, I mean, I'm an outsider here, but you got to think that the time spent in the MMA world, that counts.
Yeah.
That counts for something, at least. I mean, she has a champion's mindset too, right? Like, you read her book, and I mean, there's some stuff in there that, you know, is a bit off, but she has that champion's mindset. Like, she devotes herself to something, and she is a winner. And at the same time, though, she's still human. You see the stuff as well, and stuff gets to her online too. So it's like, chill. I didn't realize that was controversial. I might have actually seen that tweet, but just not realized that people got up about it.
Oh yeah, no, like, I woke up to like hundreds and like, it got retweeted like, I think like 2,000 or 3,000 times.
Yeah.
Like, it was insane.
The Nia Jax and Becky Lynch one, I understood why that was controversial, because you were like, look, if this was guys, we wouldn't be talking about it, right? And, you know, I don't know if you know this, but in a lot of internet circles, especially on some parts, deep, dark parts of Twitter, feminism is a very dirty word. Right?
I realized this.
So, it's one of those things. But I understood your tweet to mean that people wouldn't be attacking in the way they were.
Yeah, they wouldn't be saying, like, she has to be fired, we need to, like, burn her house down, like, I'm gonna go kill her, hope her family dies, like,
yeah, stuff like that doesn't happen to Seth Rollins. Yeah,
exactly. Like, people were like, oh yeah, he's a bit reckless.
Yeah,
but like,
it's a bit different.
Yeah, it's a lot different to the abuse that, like, Nia got and, like, Brie got, like, and they got it because they're females, like, and because women's wrestling is held to a different standard.
Yeah. I think that Mr. Shazza weighed in a way that I agreed with really well. It's also just because people don't like their wrestling.
Yeah.
Right, and so people like Seth Rollins, people like, you know, I can't think of who else has done damage, but, you know.
I think it was, like, they were using, like, Kennedy for the collarbone with Orton, like, back in, like, 2005 or whatever that was.
Yeah, and people like these ones, so they don't get on it as hard, but people already didn't like Brie and already didn't like Nia, which I can see that side of it too. Yeah,
exactly. And I think, but that's, I think that they're already not liked because of how they've come into the business, like, through the family and through the Diva Search or whatever. But, like, no, it won't ever matter how hard they work at this business. They'll always be, like, the fans will always be ready to jump on them the second that they make the smallest mistake that anyone else could have made, and it would have been just swept away. Like, you know, accidents happen because accidents do happen. People, you're in there in a brawl, arms are going everywhere, legs are going everywhere, things happen. Like,
yeah, absolutely. And look, I mean, I think she's gone a long way as well in turning the face breaker gimmick into a into a thing. And you know, when these things happen, you run with it, and it can become gold. And she's turning it into money. So you know, she's the one laughing at the end of the day.
Exactly.
So, king of the segue here. Speaking of making money,
making money.
Something interesting that I noticed. You guested on one Elliot Sexton's Trophy Life.
Yes,
you made a bit of an appearance there with some of the other Aussie Grapps girls. I can hear you cringe as I say Aussie Grapps, by the way. Aussie Grapps.
Yeah, Aussie Grapps. Ozres.
Ozres. We'll get to that. No, so but custom matches are a thing.
Oh gosh, yeah. Like, I didn't realize that this was like not known by the like wider internet, or at least by like I think there's guys in wrestling that don't even know that it's a thing. Like, I remember, like, there's every now and then I have a conversation with a guy where I'm like, yeah, no, I just do some wrestling and then whatever, I like get paid money for it. Like, cause it's just like, we don't do anything. There are definitely customs out there that are on the riskier side of the things.
Sure.
But what we do with Slammin' Ladies is we just wrestle. Like, we just get told who has to win, and like, people just order matches. They go, oh, I want to see so-and-so versus so-and-so and this person win. And then somewhere in it, they might be like, oh, well, I really would like it if they did this signature move that they do. And so we just have matches.
Right, so it's not the weird, it's not the stuff like, you know, Elliot was dressing in an apron or whatever and getting slapped with flip-flops.
No, that's us joking about it. That's because that's what everyone thinks, that we're just doing ridiculous things.
Right.
Like, it's, because there is like a whole side of custom wrestling where it can get creepy, and there's like apartment wrestling, and there's all that sort of thing that I don't really, I don't know, I don't watch it, so I don't really know exactly what's involved in it.
But then there's more reputable outlets that just do actual, like, you can book a match as if you were running a promotion, and we'll film it and send it to you.
Exactly.
That's
that
pretty
is
awesome.
Pretty much what we do. Like, you pay however long, like, you can have like a 5-minute match, a 10-minute match, a 15-minute match, 20, 30, probably can have an hour if you wanted, but why would you want to do that to people if you like them?
So I could pay to see you and Solo Darling in a 60-minute Iron Woman match.
Like, probably, yes.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, like, and like, the cool thing about customs is, like, I've gotten to wrestle, like, because you wrestle people that you would probably never get a chance to wrestle on a show. Like, I remember the first time I ever did customs, the first custom I had of the day was against Jazz.
Wow.
Like, I was just wrestling Jazz at 8 a.m. on a Saturday.
As in NWA Women's Champion.
Yeah.
ECW
and
legend
I was just like,
Jazz.
cool.
That's
this
impressive.
is just happening.
Yeah.
Like, and no one's ever going to see this.
Well, someone's going to see it.
The one person that purchased it.
Yeah.
But thank you for purchasing it. So if people want to go and order customs next time I'm doing customs and just put me against really cool people that I want to wrestle, that'd be great.
That's amazing. Yeah, I didn't know it was a thing, and it popped up on that episode, and I was like, wait, this is a thing? And then I Googled it, and I did see some of the seedier side. And I was like, this is insane. How is this a thing? But that's, I mean, wrestling, right? Putting smiles on faces.
Yes.
Yeah. Now,
smiles.
So I've seen that you are headed back to the USA.
Yes.
In 2019.
Yes.
And you've tweeted a few times. I've seen this. You
I'm
quite
a bit
regularly
annoying,
say
sorry.
that
no,
you just want to live there.
At least, I know.
You just want to leave all of us.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'd like Jordan to come with me.
Right, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I'm not like I want to leave him. I just want, like, the absolute dream would be to be able to make a living as a professional wrestler in Australia and never have to leave. my friends and my family and any of that. And just if we could all make a well and true good living and pay our bills off PWA, that would be the literal dream. Like,
of course, yeah,
that is the top goal. Number one, would be so happy, but it's not a realistic goal, at least probably not for a couple of years in Australia, that we're living that wrestler life and making a living off wrestling.
Right, we still got a bit of a way to build to it.
Yeah, there's still a lot. Like, I think it gets lost in translation, the like cost of living in Australia, how far away everything is in Australia, as opposed to like England. In the UK, the scene works so well because they just catch a train 2 hours to each show.
Yeah. And
it's all very easily accessible, and the cost of living isn't that much. And so it's all a bit easier for that it was a bit easier for that scene to grow in that sense, because England and the UK is not very big, whereas Australia is a very large place. So if we were going to start wrestling, you know, Tuesday through to Sunday every week and be in a completely different place every day, that's a lot of plane tickets, and that's expensive for promoters, and that's a lot more expensive than the train tickets that they pay for in the UK or whatever.
Yeah. So that's some of the people who do the podcast with me for the BritRes episodes and for the Pure Wrestle episodes are from Britain. And yeah, I've mentioned to them before, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to the MCW show this week. I'm really stoked, rah. And we're talking about it and stuff. And they're fans of MCW too, so they were excited. And, it was the funniest thing. He's just like, why don't you go more often? And I'm like, because I have to fly over. He's like, you have to fly to get there? Like, what, can't you just get on the train? And I'm like, I could. It's like $200 and takes an entire day.
Yeah.
And it just like warped their little British minds.
Yeah, because they just get on the train, and their trains have like cafeterias on them, and they just sit on their train drinking their tea and eating their bickies, and then they're at the wrestling show. Yeah,
well, they just get on the train and go across to Germany and go to the WXW show and just watch Volta chop chests. It's nothing.
Yeah, and like we're just, that's why we're not going to be like, it's going to take a long time for, in my opinion, for us to get Australian wrestling to that point where we can have enough wrestling that people can support their livelihoods on wrestling.
Right. I did see, though, in 2018 that there are a lot more wrestlers moving between states than there has been in the past. So we're getting there.
Yeah, and I think that has to do with the more crowds we have. The more people come to the shows, the more money the company makes, the more money they have in their budget to move people around.
Yeah.
So, but then, it just becomes, once it's like a 3, 4, 5 day a week thing, then it's, I don't know. Well, it's a while away.
It's crazy, though, trying to explain to people that, flying someone from New Zealand to Sydney for a wrestling show is cheaper than flying someone from Perth, even though we're in the same country, and people just, heads explode. It's like, we wish we were a smaller country.
Yeah, like the idea that when you explain to people that just like you wouldn't live in the middle of Australia, like there's just nothing, like there's just desert for like 2 days of driving, like they just don't understand. Cause
that said, there's wrestling coming to Darwin.
Yeah, this is true.
So
got to get on there. Got to fill in all the states. I have to do Tasmania, don't I?
Yes.
There's wrestling in Tasmania, right?
Yeah, Tasmanian Championship Wrestling. They featured on our New Year's Day episode, which people can go back and listen to in the archives. I know that sounds weird because it's not New Year's Day yet for us recording it, but, people can go back in time to listen to the future for us. The internet.
Then they can listen to this, and then, like, the people from Tasmania Wrestling, Championship Wrestling, is that it?
Yes.
Can listen to this, and then they can fly me to Tasmania for some wrestling. And then all I have to do is wrestle in Darwin, and then I'll have every state.
Absolutely. So Tasmanian Championship Wrestling, Pro Wrestling Darwin, if you're listening, book Shazza. #.
Book Shazza. #. Do it for the Shaz.
All right, so hashtags. Let's get to it. We have beef, you and I.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
I
yes,
say
we do.
I say Aussie Grapps. You say
No.
Ozres.
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 Rest. It's just, like, Grapps is so British. Like, that is a British term. Like, no one in America is like, American Grapps. Like, US Grapps. Like, it's just, like, the British people say going to the Grapps, doing the Grapps. Grapps. Like,
I see plenty of Australian wrestlers with grappler in their Twitter bio. I'm just saying. And for me, the BritRes became the popular hashtag, and I wanted to differentiate. So I've been going with Aussie Grapps. If Ozres takes off, obviously, I mean, I'm not proud. I'm going to jump on board.
yeah.
But
Look,
for me, it's Aussie Grapps, Shazza. I'm sorry, and you got to get on board with this.
As long
this is my
as-
petition to you.
As long as either Ozres or Aussie Grapps becomes the biggest thing in the internet hashtagging of wrestling at some point, we can both be happy.
Yeah. I think, you know what I think the deciding is going to be? It's going to depend on what Aussie Wrestling Gifts decides to back.
Yeah.
And he's already
this is
Aussie
true.
Wrestling Gifts, even though he should be Aussie Grappling Gifts. So I
Nah.
feel like I'm going to lose this one.
Nah.
I
I
feel
mean, yeah, you are going to lose, but nah, like, I win.
Well,
That was me being Aussie, like, being like, yeah, nah.
Yeah. Nah.
Nah, yeah.
Nah, mate. Yeah. Nah. I get you. It's all right. I feel
Yeah, you get me. You're Aussie. Anyone British listening to this is just like, what the hell is happening?
Yeah, well, the Iranian listeners, I think, will be the most confused.
Ooh, how many Iranian listeners do you have?
A surprising amount.
Ooh,
Yeah.
delightful.
Like 14%.
Hello, Iranian.
Like
Iranian?
14% of my listener base.
Ooh,
Last time I checked, which is, hello.
wrestling must be big there.
Hello, Iran. Yeah, I guess the Middle East is like a burgeoning market.
Ooh, maybe I probably can't go wrestle there.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
might.
probably not allowed to.
Probably. I think, no, I don't know, is Iran one of, I think Turkey is the one that's relatively progressive. But I have no idea. This is not a politics podcast. What
This
I do
is
want to
not.
talk about before I let you go, though, is PWA.
Yes.
Now, I don't know how to say the name of this show. Is it Jimmy Diego Havoc's last...
It's Diego's last show featuring Jimmy Havoc.
But, like, the poster has, like, the die from Diego and then the Jimmy
I
Havoc
know.
die. So it confused me when I saw it. I have
Yes.
to admit it.
No, I got very confused until I realized what they'd done, because I knew that the show was supposed to be called Diego's Last Show.
Right.
So that's why I got very confused. But then I was like, oh, that's real smart that they, like,
It is clever.
worked it in there.
Yeah, I like the way they did it, but it also just confused my feeble mind.
Yeah, that's
Like,
understandable.
How do I say the name of this show?
Yes, but
So-
we'll just go with Diego's Last Show,
Diego's last show. Sad?
featuring Jimmy Havoc.
Happy? How's that?
I mean, like, it's
Bittersweet?
bittersweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, very happy for him because he's moving overseas and he's following his dream and he's, you know, pursuing life and doing what he wants to do in life, and that's really freaking cool because that's what everyone should just follow their dreams, because that's what life is and stuff. That's my inspirational moment of the day.
Because that's what life is and stuff.
For that and stuff. But like, of course, it's sad because, like, where do we like? There's never going to be another Diego, so it's just like it took us years to find a ring announcer that like had that much suaveness about them, and
He's very good at his job.
he's very good, and he brings like the whole Black Label atmosphere. He's such a big part of that. So it's going to be very, very, very hard for them to find someone to replace him. I don't know how and where and when they're going to, like, I don't want to be in charge of ever trying to figure that out because that sounds so impossible. But yeah.
I think the note to whoever's next is don't try to replace him. Just be you.
Yeah, be you. But also
'Cause-
don't be like a nerd, like be cool.
don't be like a nerd. More life advice from Shazza McKenzie.
Yeah, like be real cool. Like a groovy.
And suave.
not
That's what you
groovy.
look for in your ring announcer?
Suave.
Suave? Is that?
Suave. Be cool enough that you could wear a vest with a shirt and then have the collar undone and make it look like cash.
And also, make sure you remember that Shazza has a last name.
Yes, that's very important. I don't think that ring announcer is in contention for the job.
But that's the next one that as people listen to this, PWA, that's next week. That is Friday the 12th, I believe.
No, you're all over the place.
Sorry, I'm 3 eggnogs deep.
Friday is the 11th, first of all, and it's Sunday the 13th.
It's Oh, right, because then they've got the Saturday in Melbourne. Okay.
Saturday the 12th is in Melbourne, and then Sunday the 13th is in Sydney, and Friday is nothing. There might be something on Friday that I just don't know about.
Nothing is happening on Friday.
I'm not really hip and cool and down with it. I'll probably be spray tanning. That's what I'll probably be doing on that Friday night.
It's important. It's an important part of the job.
It is.
So
people don't understand.
So Sunday the 13th.
Yes.
I got it right. I'm good at my job. Sunday the 13th, PWA Diego's last show. People need to get out and check it. And where can people find you, Miss Shazza McKenzie? Mrs. Shazza McKenzie.
I am at Shazza_McKenzie on Twitter and Instagram. And that's where you'll find me posting controversial things all the time, because I am controversial AF. And then I am on Facebook. I think I'm just Shazza McKenzie on Facebook. I'm sure if you search Shazza McKenzie, I'll come up.
No one ever knows their Facebook. I found this out.
Well, because,
you just should search the name. Just type in the name.
Yeah, you don't type, you type in people's usernames for Twitter and Instagram, but you don't ever type in, it's not an at blah, blah, blah.
Oh, there's someone out there that is writing right now, facebook.com/what is it, Shazza? They're getting very upset because they want to know. But if you search...
And also buy everything on Wrestler merch.
Yes, of course,
That's
Wrestler
the other thing I have to tell everyone to do.
Yes, Wrestler merch for all your Aussie merch needs.
Jordan takes all my money, but whatever.
Thank you so much for coming on the show, Shazza.
Thank you for having me.
So there you have it, Shazza McKenzie. Big things in the future for Shazza McKenzie. That's my prediction. We know that we talked about it on this show a few months ago after the last World Series Wrestling tour. Cody and Brandy Rhodes took a shine to Shazza McKenzie. So fingers crossed. I mean, Brandy Rhodes at the AEW Double or Nothing rally specifically mentioned Australia when they cast the net wide for their women's division. And so I got my fingers crossed that Shaz has been in touch. I got my fingers crossed that Shaz is heading up. Of course, we talked to Shazza before all of these WrestleMania announcements and before all of this All Elite Wrestling stuff happened, so I didn't get to touch on any of it, but that just means Shazza's going to have to come back for a round 3. That's all that means. So definitely more to talk to Shazza about, and it's always good to have Shazza on the show. So thank you so much for coming on the show, Shazza McKenzie. If you liked that interview and you like Aussie grappling interviews, you need to check out most of the shows we normally plug here on the Turnbuckle, Wrestle Radio Australia. They're still on break. They're still, catching up after Christmas. They're still nursing their full bellies and what have you. So some of the on the Turnbuckle guys went over to Japan for Wrestle Kingdom. Lucky bastards. But I am here, and I'm not the only one. There are other Aussie Grapps interviews out this week, so make sure you check out the Fight Club podcast out of New Zealand. Adam Brooks makes an appearance on the Fight Club podcast. They talk about MMA and all sorts of combat sports, but they also are going to be covering professional wrestling, and so they have interview with Adam Brooks live. You can listen to it now. I'll put a link in the show notes, of course. And with that, let's take a look at what's happening this weekend near you. In South Australia, Saturday night, Australian Wrestling Revolution presents Shock the System from Parks Theatre in Adelaide. They are holding a one-night tournament to crown the first ever AWR champion. In first round action, John E. Raddick takes on Slade Mercer, Jake Lindo faces off with Jack Rossley, Blake Mitchell takes on Joe Mundy, and Ace Wilson and Acid Hayes face off. One of these 8 men will be named champion by the end of the night. Tickets start at $15. In Western Australia, Saturday night, SHWA Uprising at the Don Russell Performing Arts Centre. Julian Ward takes on the Great George. Ryan Allen and Felix Young face off. Jeremiah Kingsley and Mike Massive are going 1-on-1. Pegasus takes on Oz. The new SHWA Pride champion Cheetor is set to defend against Jay Taylor. And in a huge main event, the Australian sensation Craven issued an open challenge to any previous holders of the SHWA heavyweight title, and boy, was it answered Warship, Del Carno, and Gorgeous Gary have all answered the call, and we will now see the SHWA heavyweight title defended in fatal four-way action. Uprising kicking 2019 off for SHWA in a big way. Tickets for that one start at $12.50. Up in Queensland, we have two shows to get excited about, both on Saturday night. IPW Resolution takes place at William Duncan State School. Mr. Queensland Wrestling Rip Riley and the revolutionary Zeke Andino are set to clash over Andino's IPW heavyweight title. Luxford and Reaper will face off to determine a number one contender and much, much more. Tickets start at $5 for that one, but kids, they get in for free. New Valhalla Wrestling Spoils of War takes place on Saturday night at Mount Gravett Showgrounds. We all know I'm a big fan of Vikings. I'm a big fan of mythology, and New Valhalla Wrestling combines those with wrestling, which obviously I'm a big fan of because here we are. So New Valhalla Wrestling has a great aesthetic. I really enjoy it. I'm looking forward to these shows making tape. But Spoils of War this Saturday, Dallas Summers, the Blair Seeker Project, Jason Hyde, and Dragon will all clash in four-way action over the Gyalahorn, which can be used to summon anything the holder's heart desires. Jake Nova used the Gyalahorn to summon Gavin McGavin, and as a result, Gavin McGavin enters New Valhalla this weekend to defend his EPW title against Jake Nova. All this and more. Tickets start at $10, but once again, kids under 5 get in for free. Down in Victoria, Gold Class Wrestling head to Warrnambool Stadium this Saturday. Andy Phoenix defends the GCW title against Carlo Cannon. Raw Beef and Band of Brothers clash in tables match action for the tag team titles, and much, much more. Tickets start at just $22. Also on Saturday night, PCW are at their home in the Southeastern Entertainment Center for Ignition 9 Summer Series Night 2. The Summer Series that PCW run is a really interesting concept. They have 4 matchups who face off in a best-of-3 series, with the winners of those series clashing in 4-way action on Australia Day in the final, in the hopes of claiming that Summer Series Cup. I love this concept, and this year's best-of-3 matchups are between Lucas Daniels and Wake, Tricky and Cass Stone, Mark Cage and Nate Cross, Edward Dusk and Jake Taylor. So Wake, Tricky, Cage, and Dusk are all up 1-0 in the series so far. There's also a tag team Summer Series as well, so these PCW events throughout January leading up to the big show on Australia Day are good ones to get to. Tickets, as always, are $20. And the big one this weekend, Melbourne City Wrestling Vendetta. First show of the year for MCW. We did an entire preview episode for this one yesterday, so if you want more info, definitely go listen to that one. Shazza vs. Avery, Tar Lee vs. Indy Hartwell, Jimmy Havoc vs. Smashmouth Richie Taylor, Rat Daddy debuts against Slex, challenging for the Intercommonwealth title. Robbie Eagles takes on Jet Ruka and Tyson Baxter, and of course, Sex Rock reunite. The Loose and Reckless reunite, all in an attempt to topple the Brat Pack as MCW Tag Team Champions. General admission tickets remain for this one, and they are $30. In New South Wales, IWA are on tour, hitting Club Forsters tonight, that is Friday the 11th, and Sawtell RSL on Saturday night, January 12th. Neither of these shows have cards announced, but we do know that in attendance will be Cowboy Chris Abbott, Jackson Kelly and the Kelly Gang, Full Force Matt Rogers, Randall, and many more. Tickets start at $14.50 according to the Facebook event. Saturday night, Newcastle Pro Wrestling hold the Babes vs. 4 Nations at Club Maitland City. The Velocities, with Belle Pierce, take on One Direction and Azalea in Invictus qualifying action. Of course, the Invictus Gauntlet grants the holders a title shot whenever they wish to throw it down, and also, as the name of the show suggests, the Babes, Matty Wahlberg and Carter Deems, will take on Jack Bonza and Adam Hoffman for the first time ever. Tickets for that one start at $10. Then on Sunday, closing out the weekend in a big way, PWA hosts Diego's last show featuring Jimmy Havoc at Max Watts in Sydney. Is it too much to hope that the show, where we've gotten confused with the show title, perhaps it's not Diego's last show featuring Jimmy Havoc? Maybe it's Diego's last show featuring Jimmy Havoc. Maybe Diego and Jimmy don't get along, and this is the last time they're ever going to work together, and Diego's actually sticking around, and it's all been a big swerve. Please? Anyway, One Direction are set to challenge Bonza and Moretti for their tag team gold. Madison Eagles and Michael Spencer have a no rope breaks match. Gavin McGavin returns to PWA. I'm pretty sure it's his first time since they've gone Black Label and moved to Max Watts. It's part of his Gavin vs. Australia tour. He is in 4-way action with the GIF Goldmine, Paris De Silva, Adam Hoffman, and Jax Jordan. Kai Drake takes on Matt Rogers. The PWG3, Robbie Eagles, Adam Brooks, and Jonah Rock have a battle of Los Max Watts, that's what I'm calling it, and Matty Wahlberg takes on Jimmy Havoc in a no DQ match, which is going to be insane. And I've saved it for last because it is the match I am most hyped about this weekend in a weekend that has lots of great wrestling all across this country. Matty Wahlberg, Jimmy Havoc, it's the marquee match for me this weekend. I am so hyped for this one. If you want to hear more, we released a preview podcast yesterday evening that you can and should go back and listen to, or if you're headed to the show on the way, it's a good way to get hyped up for it. We're going to break down the entire code and get to the full scope of what's happening at this PWA show. So hit the subscribe button, give us a 5-star review if you like what we do, and of course, if you want to support us in growing this thing and spreading our mission of watch global, support local, as well as getting some really cool rewards, make sure you head over to patreon.com/theb+. But for now, I'm going to steal Todd Eastman's gimmick from Wrestle Radio Australia because they aren't airing this week and I am. I've asked for his blessing. It's okay. It's not really stealing. It's just borrowing. I'll give it back. Make sure you go subscribe to Wrestle Radio Australia as well for more Aussie Grappler interviews. But for now, I'm going to leave you with one of the best promos ever produced on Australian soil. I feel very comfortable saying that. Matty Wahlberg addressing Jimmy Havoc ahead of their match this weekend. Thank you so much for listening.
No one thinks I can beat Jimmy Havoc. I just see the same thing over and over again. Havoc's gonna kill Wahlberg. Wahlberg's gonna die in this match. I don't think people understand how fucking good I am. I am the only honest person in PWA. I'm not afraid to tell the truth, and I think it's time to expose Jimmy Havoc for who he truly is. See, people think I'm scared of you, Jimmy. I'm not scared of you at all. People putting these memes online, acting like I'm scared of you. I'm being kept awake at night by Jimmy Havoc. The truth is, Jimmy, I sleep peacefully next to a very pretty blonde girl. The real truth is, you are kept awake at night thinking of someone like me. And that might sound silly, but we never really changed from who we are as teenagers, Jimmy. Deep down inside, we are still the same. And you are still the sad, pathetic, emo, loser, sitting outside, crying, listening to your Linkin Park, hating yourself. Because you didn't get invited to the parties. You don't have any friends. You weren't popular. And it still burns you inside. I know you still hate yourself, Jimmy. I can see it. That's why you love these death matches, because you hate yourself. And guess what? I hate you too. In fact, everyone at PWA hates me. But the difference between me and you, Jimmy, is I don't care. It doesn't affect me. It turns me on. I love when people hate me. But it breaks you down inside. It hurts you. January 13th at Max Watts, you can bring everything. You can bring the thumbtacks, the tables, the barbed wire. I know how bad everyone in that place wants to see me bleed. And realistically, I should be scared, but I'm not. Do you know why? Because I am the NBA natural-born athlete. I am the handsome, popular dude at high school that bullied you, and Jimmy, I'm happy to bully you again. 2019 is my year. I'm taking over PWA. And I start with you. Die, Havoc, die. Kill. Wahlberg. Kill.